Interesting. There's a squirrel.
The squirrel over there.
I think
I wish I could film.
he recognizes me.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Husky. Today I'm very excited to sit down with Professor Aguiar from Computer Science and Engineering Department at University of Connecticut. In this video, we'll talk about his inspiring journey to become a professor from Brown University to Princeton and now University of Connecticut, and what it's really like to build a career in academia in the US. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi Dr. Direct, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. So how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to interview you today. So I recently read your story on UConn today, and I find it very inspiring. So people usually describe you as a jack of all trades because your research cover a wide range of topics. So what do you think about that? Is it true?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. So I do end up working in a lot of different areas, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, I'm just generally interested in a lot of different scientific areas. And two, I've adopted several students from other faculty, and so when they come over and they're more advanced, it's sort of like, well, you'll learn a little bit of my stuff, I'll learn a little bit of your stuff, and so that's sort of that mix. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're looking for success, I think, in research and grant writing, that sort of thing, if you're going to that in your next stage in your career, then I think the winning strategy is probably to focus on, a very niche area and sort of claim that as your research area.
Yeah, sounds great. So can you tell a little bit about the projects you are working in your lab now?
Yeah, so to follow up from that, we have a lot of projects and a lot of students. And so we do work on pretty diverse things, like we work with lawyers from the UConn Law School. We work with educational experts from NEAG, School of Education here, and the Bushnell Theater. But I'd say my main area is in computational biology, so mixing techniques from statistics and algorithms with biological data. Yeah.
So your research is very interdisciplinary, right? Blending the computer science with the biology, law, and even history. So how did you first realize that the computer science could be applied beyond the traditional boundaries?
Yeah, people have a different view of what computer science is, and I'm very biased towards the problem-solving part of computer science. So I've always sort of thought of computer science as the discipline that solves computational problems. And I think as other disciplines get more and more data, they're noticing that there are more and more computational problems.
So speaking of the interdisciplinary work, one of your projects really caught my attention is the development of the AI version of Abraham Lincoln for the middle school students. So what inspired that idea?
Yeah, so that's an example of when you put yourself out there and you attend a lot of meetings and you're just generally interested, that sometimes these opportunities come to get you. So this was a meeting where the Bushnell Theater, representatives from the Bushnell Theater, in particular David and Yolande, my two collaborators there, they came to UConn and they had a good idea about how to rethink middle school education by using a chatbot. And back then there wasn't, when we started, there weren't any LLMs, but as the NLP area developed, we started to have these really high profile LLMs appear, and that really enabled this project. But the idea largely came from our collaborators, and then we developed it.
Sounds interesting. So how do you see AI changing the way we teach and learn in the future?
Yeah, I think we have an opportunity here. I think the AI can, especially LLMs and coding co-pilots and that sort of thing, coding assistants, I think they can help with automating a lot of the mundane tasks, like remembering documentation and syntax, to free up people to computer scientists to think about the more interesting algorithmic type work. But they also have the potential to replace learning, and that will be catastrophic. So I think us as educators, we have to be really careful how we teach students how to use these tools to help their learning.
So for the students who are interested in working in AI, so what skills or mindsets do you think are the most valuable for them to develop right now?
To work in AI?
Yes.
So I think probably in a conventional computer science degree, there's going to be a lot of combinatorics, a lot of discrete math. You probably don't get enough of the probability and statistics and mathematics. And so I would recommend a student in computer science to really take a lot of stats, especially courses, and mathematics courses. And if you're in mathematics or statistics, I'd recommend you to take a lot of computer science courses. So I think sometimes you have to craft your own degree if it's not available at the university that you're at.
Yeah, that sounds great. So let's go back to your undergrad years. So you once mentioned that you didn't have much experience, research experience back then. So can you share your journey from that starting point without much research experience to becoming a professor at UConn today?
Yeah, it's not the route that I would recommend necessarily. So as an undergrad at the University of Rhode Island, it was a very good teaching school, and now they're doing a lot, high profile research, but back then it was more focused on teaching. And so I didn't know you could really do research. And my parents are a nurse and a car mechanic, and so they really didn't know either. And so I really just focused on grades because I was paying for school now and I didn't want to pay for a B. That's what I always told myself.
Yeah.
So I focused on grades and probably too much on partying. And then when I realized that I wanted to go into research, which is when I had my first job that used my degree, I was in a position where I was trying to get into PhD programs without any research, which is never a good position. So I applied to master's programs and I got into a couple schools, one of which was Brown. And so then my new goal was to try to get into a PhD lab at Brown. So as a master's student, I was taking, I think, 5 classes or something and also doing research, and it was really, really tough. It's much easier if you can do that as an undergrad versus, pay the $50,000 or whatever it is now to get a master's degree and hope that you find a PhD lab.
Yeah.
And then I got into Brown, and from there I did a postdoc. And after my postdoc, I applied for faculty positions and got lucky to get into UConn.
Yeah, that's a long journey, right? So you got your PhD at Brown University and then postdoc position at Princeton University.
Yep.
2 prestigious institutions, right? So how was the research environment there different from UConn? And how did those experiences help you to become a professor today?
Sure, yeah. So every department, every school has its own kind of culture. Brown, I felt, was very open. I felt like I could go up to anybody's office and talk to them and they would have time for me. Princeton was very collegial as well, but I felt like it was more competitive. There was some faculty that I was there for 3.5 years, or some faculty that I never saw once, either because they had a different appointment or they were traveling or something. UConn, I would say, is more, at least UConn CS, School of Computing, is more like the Brown. I feel like in Brown University, I feel like I can go anywhere and talk to anybody, and they're sort of welcoming, which is nice. You lose a little bit of a competitive edge, but I really like being at UConn.
Yeah, that's great. So many students think that to be successful in academia, they need to chase big name universities or big labs. So what would you say to that? It can be helpful if you have a big name as an advisor. I would say, I did for both my PhD and my postdoc, and I think it has been helpful. But I think the most important thing is that you find a good fit. So what I mean by that is you gel well with the existing lab members there, and also you gel well with the potential advisor. So when you're looking for labs, you should always talk to the advisor and also talk to the other students in the advisor's lab. I think that's super important. And then, of course, the research fit. You have to like the type of research that your advisor is doing, because that's what you'll be doing, especially at the start and midpoint of your PhDs. So research fit, and then that's way more important than whether or not you have a big name, right? You could place in a lab that has a big name, and then it's awful. You don't like the research. It's hard to work with the people in the lab. The advisor doesn't give you a lot of time, right? Yeah.
So
that's correct. That's important. So working in academia, have you ever experienced the imposter syndrome or uncertainty along the way, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think everybody does. I think almost everybody does. And in fact, you probably should feel imposter syndrome. If you don't, then you're probably in the wrong location. What I mean by that is, you always want to be the stupidest person in the room. Like, you always want to find a room that has smarter people in it. And I kind of always felt like I was in that case. At Brown, I felt like I was the stupidest person in my incoming class. At Princeton, again, I felt like I was the stupidest person in my incoming class. But that really helped me grow. I think it's better than if it was reversed and I was the smartest person in the room. So I think you almost by definition, you'll feel imposter syndrome, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. So getting a faculty position in the US right now is extremely competitive. So can you share a little bit about your own experience or maybe some tips for those who are chasing a similar path?
Yeah, it is really tough. Not just faculty positions, but PhD positions. Everything is getting harder and harder. I would say cast a wide net. So I was sort of geographically constrained because my wife works in Groton, Connecticut. So I was kind of constrained to this area. But if you're a prospective faculty, I wrote a letter for a woman who got a faculty position from UConn, but I think she applied to more than 100 places.
Wow.
Yeah. So cast a wide net and then make yourself as competitive of a candidate as possible. And you can really do that by publishing high quality research and really know what you're publishing and do a good job, right? Because a lot of papers will get you an interview, but it won't necessarily get you a job. You have to also be a good scientist.
Yeah, that's great. So many students imagine professor are always, busy in the lab or in the classroom. Do you actually have enough time for yourself?
Yeah, pre-tenure it was hard. So pre-tenure, you have to pretty much just work. And when you're not working, you kind of feel bad that other people are working and you're not.
Yeah.
And that could cost you tenure. So pre-tenure, it's hard. But post-tenure, yeah, then you have a little bit more time. My wife and I travel a lot for conferences. In computer science, you get to travel around the world because our conferences are typically international. And play some video games. Trying to play soccer again for a while. I tore my ACL when I was at Brown.
Oh.
So I'm trying to get back. I just bought some new cleats recently.
So after a long journey and now being in the tenure track, right? So how do you feel? Do you feel fulfilled or are you still chasing new goals?
Yeah, I mean, you always should have new goals. They change a little bit after tenure, so I feel like I can take more risks and work on some more risky projects. But I'm starting to feel a little bit more, joy, not so much with my achievements, but when my students achieve something. So if my students get a paper in, I'm really happy for them. If they win an award, I'm really happy for them. So as you get older, it sort of shifts from your own achievements to the achievements of your students.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So how many people in your lab right now?
Oh, geez. Putting me on the spot. A lot.
A lot?
Yeah. So I have 5 PhD students, 5-ish PhD students, a couple masters, many undergraduates, maybe 10 to 15 undergraduates at different levels of activity, and then a few high school students. Yes, it's a lot.
That's a lot. So as a PI, you mentor many students, right? So what do you expect from your students, especially the PhD student?
It depends. Yeah. So that's actually a good point. It's very important for you to set expectations with your advisor, regardless of what you are, high school, undergrad, PhD, master's, because a lot of the problems come from when the expectations don't align anymore.
Yeah,
so it depends on the student. If it's a high school student, I can't give them any high profile thing. Even undergraduates, right? I can't really give them high profile stuff until they prove themselves. For PhD students, yeah, they're expected to run a project, at least one project, and then contribute to 1 or 2 other ones. And the more advanced you are, the more responsibility you get.
Yeah.
Eventually, when you become a very advanced PhD student, you can actually come to me. I've seen some of my students are really good and they bring me problems.
Yeah.
But that's later on in the career. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone thinking about applying to computer science program at UConn or maybe in your lab?
What advice?
Yes.
I get a lot of applications from students, and with those applications, I just get too many, so you have to filter them somehow. Interesting. There's a squirrel.
The squirrel over there.
I think
I wish I could film.
He recognizes me. So I would recommend making yourself as competitive as possible for the specific lab that you want to go into, and really for the specific area you want to go to. For my lab, I look for people that have experience with algorithms and statistics, which is in particular Bayesian statistics, which is a weird combination, right? If you have a publication, I look at the publication and I check to see its quality. You can tell pretty quickly if a publication is high quality by looking at the figures. It's really the best way. It seems like the best quick way. And if both of those look good and I have funding, a lot of times PIs just won't have funding, and so then you're kind of just screwed. But if I have funding, then I will proceed to the interview phase.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for the time today, Professor. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. I'm sure many students will find it very inspiring and really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully this is helpful for somebody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.